starting with, we're kind of in the middle of cross-examination on Grace Jabbari's second day on the stand. Priya Chaudhry just dropped the S-bomb, and they object, it's sustained. Jabbari runs out of the courtroom crying, and then they're up at the bench for a sidebar, and then we come back and we move to a different subject. So we're going to go through this reading. There are about 40 pages left of cross-examination on day 2, and then there's a whole day of cross-examination that I'll probably start a separate video for so it can stay organized. I did send the link to Danny. I plan to go live with Danny tonight, maybe around 8:30 or 9 if she's available. We either will look at day 7, which was the day Jimmy was in court and Danny was not there. So Danny, we can get a peek of, what she missed the one day she wasn't there. Or we might just talk about all the different reactions, the things people are saying over on X, some of the crazy talk, who knows, but it will be a separate video. It'll be, in a couple hours, so stay tuned for that, but let's look at all of this. What do you mean my husband isn't watching with me? What are you guys talking about? I'm confused. Oh, so your husband's actually watching with you, and Chill is saying, come on, Chill. Who is your husband? Aw. Okay, so everyone's back in the courtroom. It doesn't indicate, by the way, like there's no time on how long this took. So Jabbari runs out of the courtroom because Galloway is like, isn't it true that when you were a teenager, your boyfriend was like, I don't want to do this anymore completely, goodbye. And then we're back. But I assume it wasn't just like 2 seconds. It was probably a while. So they come back. Grace Jabbari takes the stand. Miss Jabbari, we're going to move to a different subject. Thank you. You're going to get into the refreshing recollection now, right? Yes. Miss Jabbari, previously we were queuing up to refresh your recollection. Now they're going to give her the headphones. She's going to start watching the police body cam footage, but the court is not hearing it. She's wearing headphones here. So what Priya Chaudhry is going to have to do is ask her questions like, and do you say, and then read the line that is said in that part of the video. That way the court can hear what's being said because they can't hear it audibly. So she's going to have to put the quotes from the audio in her line of questioning. So if you'd please listen to 30 seconds and let us know. Just refresh her recollection as to the question. Just ask the question again. When the police asked your name, you were not able to tell them your name. Right. And you responded that you couldn't recall. So what we're going to do is show you a video that we're going to ask you to listen to where it's queued up and ask if that refreshes your recollection. Yes. So she watches this 30 seconds. Does that refresh your recollection? It does. Yes. And isn't it true, Miss Jabbari, when the police... So first of all, looking at that, and I think the people stipulated, that's 11:20 in the morning, correct? Correct, yes. And isn't it true that at 11:20, when the police entered and asked what your name was, you were not able to answer? I did not answer, no. Jonathan answered instead. You did not answer, correct? I did not answer, no. And isn't it... Should we take that back? What would you like? Why don't we, just in case, why don't we just leave it with Miss Jabbari or on the side there in case there's more of this? So the judge is having some foresight here. This way, we don't have to keep going back. If you could put the screen facing... Okay, go ahead, because they don't want the jury to see the video. Isn't it also true that the police asked if... Can you hear me? Yes, I think so. And isn't it true that you didn't answer that question either? Oh, so the police asked her, can you hear me? Because she didn't answer. And isn't it true that you didn't answer that question either? Yeah, I was more just trying to work out what was going on. Yeah. And the first thing you actually said is, I'm so confused right now. Yes. And the officer asked you, you don't know why you're here, is that right? Yes. And you said, I remember being sick. Yes. And this questioning starts at 11:20. We just established, right? Yes. I'm surprised they didn't say like asked and answered for that objection. Now, Miss Jabbari, you testify that the first photos you took of your injuries were at almost 8 a.m. That's right? Yes, I think so. And you did have 2 phones with you all night, right? All night? Yeah, previously, I had both phones with me, yes. And you claim that your finger was already swollen while you were at the club, is that right? Yes, well, it was red, I couldn't see how swollen it was. It got more swollen, but I could see the discoloration was beginning. And that's, I remember, she testified, I should have iced it, but then she also testified that she had asked for a piece of ice to ice it. Did you testify on direct your finger had begun swelling at the club? Yeah, it began to. It wasn't as swollen as it eventually became over the rest of the night. Had it begun to swell or not at the sorry, yes. So it did swell at the club, is that right? Yeah, like a small amount compared to what it eventually became. Just to be clear, yes or no, was your finger swollen at all at the club? Yes. Galloway, objection, asked and answered. It was asked and answered, but it was answered again, so there you go. The judge. And there are times at the club when you're holding both of your phones, correct? Hold on, we've got Danny here, so let me get her in. You good, Danny? And then let me see. Okay, yay, it worked. I didn't struggle stream to add somebody. Let me get some.
Yeah, this is very user-friendly, this platform.
So yeah, we just got past that major S-bomb where Chaudhry sent Grace Jabbari running out of the courtroom.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so this was the day that I was there, right? Because this sounds really familiar.
Yep, okay. So this is, I don't think it should, it does show the page count.
Yeah, when she said the unalive, when your boyfriend, yeah, and then they obviously struck it, but.
So how long was she like crying? And I know they were setting up the audio thing too anyway, but how long did she run out and cry for?
Maybe 3 minutes tops. She wasn't going long. That's why I was.
And then she got it back together.
Okay. Like I said, I told you guys in the beginning, at first she was sympathetic. But by the time Priya got to her, I was like, oh, wait a minute. I think she got me too. But
yeah, I mean, I have multiple ideas of why she asked that question, but like reading it in the transcript, I was like, oh, that's when this happened.
No, what are your
really
ideas?
Just comes in.
I still don't know. I'm still trying to figure out.
For me, it's the idea that you would be familiar with how much pain that could cause. So if you want to hurt somebody, you would know how to hurt somebody because you know how something like that would feel. Because the position of where Chaudhry's asking it. She's asking it where she's getting to the idea of staging. Because she just asked, you sent Jonathan text messages at 7:47 a.m., 7:52 a.m., and then the last text we see at 7:54 a.m., and then you call. Your very first time trying to contact Holly is 7:56 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
So she's established that part, like all the Holly Blakey stuff. And then she goes into the police body cam footage, which is really where, she's found unconscious. Right. And we've got her two conflicting testimonies where she says she passed out and went unconscious on the bathroom floor. She hasn't said closet yet. She's still only said bathroom. So on one hand, she says she just passed out and doesn't remember anything, and it just jumps from this gap of time. She doesn't remember anything from that point until the cops waking her up. So she's the one that states the cops have woken her up.
And she doesn't remember being on the phone with Holly for 4 to 5 hours.
She just complete gap of time. Right. But she's supposed to be credible. But then she also had testified earlier than that she had gotten sick, made it to the toilet, and then decided since the bathroom floor is warm, it sounds crazy, but I just wanted to lay down. So she's already contradicted herself on how she ended up passed out. She voluntarily fell asleep there. And then she passed out unconscious and doesn't remember anything. So, big lie.
And right, and then it's just like, yeah. I told you that day I was completely confused. But you see how she was just jumping around with the questions, and I'm just like, where is this going? Like, why?
No, it's a lie. And I know we're gonna get a third lie. We're gonna get a third lie about that bathroom floor because it's going to become the closet. So, like, I can kind of see why it's hard to follow when it's in a courtroom and there's like New York City traffic, the windows are open or whatever, right. And she's like smiling and crying and there's more going on. But in the words, it's obvious when it's written down in plain words.
Yeah.
So it just got to the point she has said that the first thing that she said is, I'm so confused right now. That's kind of where we're at. And she's like, I didn't answer what my name was because Jonathan answered for me. Like, she's making excuses already.
Right.
So, let's see. Wait, I think I skipped one. Oh, and actually, she just said that, yes, her finger was swollen at the club, even though she took like 4 answers to actually say it. And other times at the club when you're holding both of your phones, correct? I know that I did try to connect to the internet with both of them,
Hmm.
yeah, when I was getting a taxi. But also, when you were at the bar ordering champagne, you had both of your phones out, correct? Possibly, yes. And it's your testimony. And you didn't take a single photo of your fingers, even though you were holding phones with your cameras in your right hand, right in your hand next to your finger. Is that right? Yes, that's right. And you had, as we saw in direct, taken a photo of things that you claim Mr. Majors threw on the ground once, right? In June, the one from Los Angeles. Yes, I took that photo. Yes. And now that's a good point that she brings up there, that you'll go and take a picture of something like that, but you won't take a picture of an
Of,
injury.
of an injury that he caused.
Yeah. And
Right.
then you also took a picture of your finger to send Holly right after Jonathan Majors stopped talking to you. Because
Hmm.
she broke the timestamp down, but it was like she tried to call Holly, and then a few minutes later, it was a really short time period, she sends her the text messages, and then that's what makes Holly call her back. So
But
Holly doesn't
I don't
answer the
know.
phone.
I'm not sure. You only have Grace's. You only got the transcript for Grace's
I
testimony.
have Holly's.
Okay, so when you get to Holly, you'll see that that's BS too, because
Yeah.
Holly testifies that she ignored the calls because she
Hmm.
had to take care of her baby and do her normal
And
daily
was
routine.
probably just like, why are you calling me until
Right. And
those
she said
pictures get sent?
by the time she saw that Grace had called her several times, she did the time conversion. It was like, oh shoot, let me call her, but it wasn't right away.
Yeah, this
She
is
didn't call
exactly
her
how I
right
feel about her answers. An ass covering answer.
away.
Like every other one, that seems to be the point. So she says, okay, she's holding both phones, doesn't take a picture of her finger. And you had, as we saw in direct, taken a photo of things that you claim Mr. Majors threw on the ground once, right? In June, that one from Los Angeles. Yes, I took that photo. You had also, as we discussed earlier when we listened to that recording, you had secretly taken an audio recording of Mr. Majors, right? Yes. And you know that the reason you had taken that photo from LA was so you could remember how Mr. Majors is? Yeah. And I think yeah is a very different answer than yes. And the people that you were with at the club, there was a birthday party, right? Yes. And they were taking photos at the club, right? I'm sure, yes. And you had your photo taken with the people from the birthday party, right? With the two people that helped me. She's always inserting that a third party is having to help her because, like, to prove that something was wrong in the first
And they
place.
didn't even vouch for her. That's the crazy.
No. Shams didn't show up, and Shams lives in Westchester, New York. The others don't live in New York. Shams lives there, and he didn't show up. So maybe they
Right.
didn't subpoena him. I'm not making a full assumption there, but I'm just saying I saw that he lives in Westchester. So
I feel
that's
like they might
right
have
around the corner.
options to come in because if you get the other two, why not get him? He was
Yeah.
there too. So they probably gave them a
And he
choice.
was he was by the car door, like at that one point. Shams was like the one right between Jonathan while Jabari was in the car, so he would have had
Right.
a different vantage point than Chloe, who was in the car. But who knows? Maybe he was like out of town or something.
Right.
I want to
Maybe
look at
he
the
was spending too.
no. I want to look at the photos of your ear that you took at 8 a.m. And that would be, Your Honor, even though they've been entered through the people, is it okay if we use our own so we could put it up there? Are they exact? Just use what's there, what's in evidence. Your Honor, these, I don't think they've put in yet, but they haven't given me a copy of the ones they put in. It's hard for me to know whether they use these exact ones. Are you referring to the photos that are in evidence? The judge seems confused here. She just said they weren't the same ones. No, some are, but some aren't. And because they haven't given me copies of what they put into evidence as that exhibit number, it's hard for me to know whether my. So, what are you going to ask the witness about? What photos? Photos that are not in evidence? And I've got to say, the judge never does this whenever the people have wanted to submit something into
Right.
evidence. The judge is
Right.
always pushing back against, like, why do you need to submit that? No, we're not going to let it in. Oh, Jabari recognizes this picture of the side of his face where he's cut up. She recognizes that it's Jonathan, but she doesn't recognize for sure that the clothes he's wearing are his clothes. Oh,
Exactly.
foundation's not laid. It can't come in. Like, it's weird.
Yeah, he started getting weird. Once the defense got a hold of her, he started getting weird.
Probably felt bad for her because she was crying, and that's all it takes. Like, just nuts. There are some I'm about to try to put into evidence. Go ahead, give it a shot. Okay. Miss Jabari, you took a number of photos of your ear around 8 in the morning from the apartment, correct? Correct, yes. And you testified that you did this by pulling your ear back so that you could get a photo, right? Yeah. I was trying to see what has happened, what has happened. That's like a weird present tense word to
Hmm.
use, but okay. Maybe it's a transcription typo.
Or a
And you turn,
Freudian slip.
yeah. And you turned over 3 photos of your ear to the district attorney's office in early April, correct? Correct, yes. And I think Priya attacked this a little bit earlier, saying that you have this other phone, you never turned your other phone in. That's where all your WhatsApp messages are logged. That's where you have
Mm-hmm.
other pictures. You also only turned in some pictures in April, and then you came back to the prosecution and gave them more a week before trial started. So this must be part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Correct, yes. I'm handing you what's been marked for identification as Defense Exhibit 110, 111, and 112. Ms. Jabbari, have you reviewed what's been marked for identification? First of all, with no objection, I offer what's been marked for identification, blah, 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 blah. No objection from the people. They are put in front of Jabbari, and then they're moved into evidence. Okay, the judge says, and your assistant is now going to display these. Do you want these published to the jury? Please, Your Honor. And then they make sure the jury can see it. Ms. Jabbari, this is what's in evidence as Defense Exhibit 110. Can you see that? Yes. That's a photo of your ear that you took, correct? Correct, yes. And you took that around 8:15 on March 25th, correct? Yeah, I guess so. You took them around the time that you were sending them to Miss Blakey, correct? Yeah, I believe I took them before the phone call, if that's my memory. And then I sent them to her whilst I was on the phone with her. Okay, we're gonna pause here because this is not the timestamp she sent them. This is the timestamp they were taken.
Mm-hmm.
She tried to cover her ass right here, and it's not working. It says you took that around 8:15.
Mm-hmm.
So Priya's definitely trying to establish. You decide that he's not answering you for good. You try to go to someone else. You send him these pictures of your finger, and now all of a sudden you have a fresh bloody ear that you're taking these photos. The
Mm-hmm.
first time you're taking these photos is at 8:15 a.m. The first one is 8:15 a.m.
And how is it fresh? Right.
Because I don't, this is a new detail to me that it was taken at 8:15 a.m. So, and that's huge. I see why that's huge.
No, go ahead, because I missed it.
Yeah, 8:15, but you guys, is it like, I don't know if everyone in the chat is like following that, but that's the timeline, right? She sends this, there's no note text. Then she immediately calls Holly. She starts her sequence of trying to call Holly Blakey. She immediately starts sending Holly Blakey pictures of her injuries, saying, I don't know what happened. I got really scrappy last night. But she for sure said that her phone got red, but she couldn't say that it was already swelling at the club until she was pressed on it. And then she was like, yes, it sure was, bless you. It sure was swelling at the club. She like finally certainly confirmed. And then now she's got this fresh ear cut that she's taking the first picture of at 8:15 a.m.
Right. And to
Like,
me, it didn't look crusty because she claimed it was dried up all in the back. And I'm just like, well, it didn't look like.
and she had said that the first time she noticed was when she was laying down sleeping. That was closer to like 5 a.m., 7 a.m. It was
Mm-hmm.
before she even contacted Holly Blakey.
Right.
So now if she's getting up and she's deciding, because she said she went to the bathroom to take these pictures when she noticed it was crusty.
Mm-hmm.
So the first time she's taking these pictures, it should be crusty. It should be crusted to her hair because she said she immediately went and took these pictures. And it should be at the time she testified that she noticed
Right.
them.
Right.
So,
Why would you clean it and then take the picture?
and then like as it's bleeding again, like,
Right.
so, and then, yeah, but that 8:15 timestamp is really damning to me. So then they bring up the second picture, Exhibit 111. That's also a photo of your ear that you took that morning. Yes. And then Exhibit 12, is that also a photo of your ear that you took that morning? Yes. And Ms. Jabbari, although I'm surprised she's tried to evade laying foundation for almost everything the defense has tried to bring in. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the reason she's not fighting it here is she's not realizing the significance of the 8:15 yet.
Right.
That probably went over her head. And all she's thinking is, these pictures make me look injured. They make me look good.
Right.
So this
Right.
is the first time she's not fighting the foundation to be laid. Because she's like, cool, let them see my bloody ear that I did.
Exactly.
Is that a photo of your ear that morning? Yes. And Ms. Jabbari, let us know if you need us to go back through these, but 112, Defense Exhibit 112, you could see the dried blood on your ear, is that right? Yes. Back to 111 and Exhibit 111, you could see the dried blood, right? Yes. And do you recall, without seeing it, whether you could on 110 also? We'll show it to you. Yeah, and there's dried blood on that. Yes, correct. And Ms. Jabbari, just to be clear, that is your right ear, correct? Yes. And in that photo, that is the same ear that was injured that night, correct? Yes, that's the injury. By stipulation, defense is entering Exhibit 106. And as to 106, the people have no objection. It comes in. It's published to the jury. This is a photo of your ear taken after 11 a.m. by the officer, correct? I believe so, yes. And there's no dried blood on your ear at 11, is there? Not that I can see. It looks like it's closed up. And when did you clean your ear? I don't believe I did. You don't
So how
believe
did
that
it get clean?
You don't believe that between 8 a.m., when we saw Defense Exhibit 110, 111, and 112, and 11 a.m., when we see you here with your ear here without dried blood, you're not the one who cleaned your ear? I remember getting the blood out of my hair and trying to get it away from there probably after I was on the phone to Holly and things like that, but it was painful. So she doesn't really when the first time, not what we're reading right now, but I think it was yesterday's reading, she doesn't mention anything about Holly and then trying to clean her ear. That's not in her timeline of her describing her ear the first time at all. And then she's like, but it was painful. I didn't get alcohol and clean it or anything. If we could please go back to 110. So these are the earrings that you were wearing that night, correct? Yes. And you didn't change your ear jewelry before you took this picture, did you? I don't think so, no. There is no puncture near the side of your head where the earring is there? No. And there wasn't that night, was there? A what? Puncture? A puncture, right. You have an earring with a post in it, correct? Yes. And there's no puncture on the soft part behind your ear. No. In that photo? No. And if we could please look at 111. This is one of the photos you took at 8 a.m. There's no swelling in this photograph to your ear, is there? I don't know. I'm pulling it quite far forward, I guess. Yeah, because you're supposed to be bruised up if you got hit at 12:50 in the morning.
Right.
So there's that language again. I don't know. I have an excuse. I'm pulling it quite far forward, I guess. Because she doesn't just want to say yes or no.
Right. But that's what I said, that she never answers anything yes or no. It's always something extra.
Kind of, extremely
Mm-hmm. Or just trying
a bit, maybe, yeah.
By throwing in extra detail so you can forget the question you originally
asked.
Yep,
and then she has to ask the question again. She's like, I'm sorry, what was it? You have them in front. Oh, you have them in front of you if you want to flip through to see. She's like, I could see it. Okay, so now she sees it. Okay, and you could look at the ones in front of you if you would like, but the pictures you took at 8 a.m., which is Defense Exhibit 110, 111, and 112, there are no bruises in any of those photos of your ear, are there? I have that one, yeah, no. They're not very clear photos, so she wants to say yes, even though the question is about the bruise. She's saying yes about, yes, I have those defense photos in front of me. Because she's getting to say the word yes right after she's asked the question about the bruise. But her yes isn't about that question. The yes is saying, yes, I have. And that's making it seem like to the jury, yes, I see the bruise. Even though she's about to say, no, they're not very clear photos, but I think the darkness is the blood around it. Yeah. She really wants to be able to say yes. And she can't. Can we look at 110? If we could zoom in, please. This again is a photo that you took around 8 a.m., correct? She's just laying out this timeline. And this is your left hand holding your ear in this photo, right? Yeah, I believe so. Probably. And you do see the dirt under your fingernails in this photo. Yeah, I do. Your Honor, what we have marked as Defense Exhibit 103 is already I know you're left dusty.
Dusty,
just
right.
Dirty fingernails. Your Honor, what we have marked as Defense Exhibit 103 is already in evidence as People's Exhibit 17. If we could just show it on there. You've looked at it, you have no objection, just show it to the people. As long as there's no objection, it can be published. So Chaudhry says, if you could, no objection, so what number was it? It was 103. If you could, these are photos taken by the officer after 11. Ms. Jabbari? Sorry, can you repeat the question? These are photos taken by the officer after 11 a.m. I believe so, yes. If you could please zoom in on Ms. Jabbari's left hand in this photo. In this photo, taken after 11, the dirt has been cleaned from under your fingernails, correct? I think the dirt was most likely blood from what I was trying to discover what the pain was. It's a weird way to word it. So I imagine I washed a bit of blood off, so did my nails also get washed. And hold on, if you're drunk and trying to wash your hands and that stuff is gunked up under there, a simple hand wash isn't going to get that stuff out.
We all know you have to dig up under your nails. You can't, or like a nail brush, but you can't just wash your hands and it instantly underneath your nails are clean. That's not how that works. And her nails were not long, but they were...
They're at that point where they're wedged between the skin where you have to get up under there.
Yeah, they had enough length to them and they were pretty sharp that she would have to dig up under her nails to get whatever was in it out. You can't just wash your hands and it'll come out.
And her wording is weird anyway. She says, so I'm assuming, I'm presuming, I'm not certain. So I imagine I washed a bit of the blood off. Just a bit. So did my nails also get washed? Like, that sounds like she's asking a question in her own answer to herself. You're saying imagine. Okay, good. Priya calls it out. Thank you, Priya. You're saying imagine. Do you recall washing the dirt from under your nails? No, I didn't, like, specifically clean my nails. Oh, so she flat out says she didn't specifically get up under there.
But she had to have because they were clean. Did you see that picture?
I remember vaguely. You know, I haven't looked at it, like,
they
slowly.
Were clean, like how your nails are clean. Like, no trace of anything underneath them.
Like, I remember thinking, like, oh, this is obviously the 11 o'clock one. Like, she goes in there and realizes to clean them up.
Clean, like, with no dirt, blood, or whatever was in there.
And the one that looked dirty, it didn't look exactly like dried blood to me. It looked like
it was dirty. I don't know what it was.
It was dark. I thought it was like scratched and, like, you know, she's been out all night.
I think it was his skin from when she scratched his
when she flicked him away this way with range of motion. That's her testimony. Right. She never scratched him. She flicked him away like this. Like, you're being brutally attacked in a car, and this is what you do.
Right.
And then you have to wash your fingernails. In the picture you pointed out with dirty nails, I would assume... Oh, wait. But it's your testimony that blood would have gotten under your fingernails from the blood in your ear. Is that right? In the picture you pointed out with dirty nails, I would assume that was from me fiddling with the injury. Now she's fiddling with the injury. You're saying you would assume, but do you know what the dirt is from? No, I couldn't. And when you were discussing your injuries with the medics, did you tell them at any point that you had already cleaned your ear? No. Did you tell the police that you had already found these injuries on yourself? No. And did you tell the people, the doctors at Bellevue, that you had already treated your injuries? I didn't treat my injuries. So you think you cleaned it and now you didn't treat them. Just like, hold on, I didn't treat my injuries. That goes back to her saying I should have iced my finger.
Right.
I'm telling you guys, I really don't think she ever iced that finger. I don't think Chloe saw it. I think the prosecution asked Chloe in April when they met and said, do you remember anything about ice? Mm-hmm. Do you remember Grace asking you for an ice cube? She was like, yeah, she might have asked me for an ice cube.
Right.
Because that's how witness recall works. Because now we have it twice. Grace Jabbari says, I should have iced my finger. I don't know. Meaning she didn't do it. And then now she's saying I didn't treat my injuries. So did you not ice your finger?
Yes.
I mean... Man, it could be maybe in the moment she's not thinking, like, I didn't bandage and alcohol my finger. But at the same time...
Did you do
anything? Could be. Yeah. Right. When you say you cleaned your ear... Because she says injuries, not ear. When you say you cleaned your ear, what exactly did you do? I wanted to clean my hair because it was, I guess, stuck to it. So I was pulling it off. It would wash, obviously. I definitely put water, but I didn't, like, medically clean anything. When did you do that? It was after... Maybe after I spoke to Holly, before I fell asleep again on the bed. So you fall asleep again on the bed after talking to Holly, sometime between 8:15 a.m. and 11:07. I mean, there's other stuff in the timeline, but that's a narrow window now. We're at like 3 hours.
Because you'll see in Holly's testimony, she said they spoke for hours, the whole time. And hours and hours and hours. And she said they never had more than a 20 to 30 minute gap in between calls.
And Jabbari has conflicted herself here with the sleeping thing because I think she was just to try to get sympathy points. I don't know why she did it, but she's like, oh, I tried to fall asleep. And when I would fall asleep, if I moved on my right side, I'd wake up from the pain. I kept waking up from the pain. But then she would also, there was another point where she said she had tried to fall asleep, but couldn't. As in, all she wanted to do was sleep, but wasn't able to get any rest because she couldn't fall asleep. So we have on one hand, she's falling asleep, but she has to keep waking up because of the pain, and that could tell the jury I was clearly in pain, but then I was in so much pain that I couldn't fall asleep. And then now we have all this, I'm passing out in the bed.
And the same one that dances with a broken rib, so I'm confused.
Yep, so she's passing out in the bed. Her ear is clearly bleeding at this point because she's putting this falling asleep in the bed between the 8:15 timeline and the 11 o'clock timeline. So she didn't fully clean her ear. Then she goes and lays down in this bed. And then there's not going to be any evidence of blood on the pillow except her own words. And a confused officer, perhaps, because he was shown the picture from Jonathan Major's pillow. Mm-hmm. So, like, this is why courts need to be transparent.
Yeah, because nothing makes any sense. But again, the same way we're sitting here like confused, that jury, man, I don't even want to talk about them anymore.
Let me see what.
I don't think they were even paying attention, honestly. I really don't.
Well, you said the one that we needed was sitting there falling asleep.
Yeah, exactly.
So let me see. Let me see if the chat is maybe we sound crazy up here. So let's see. 2 of America's Most Wanted in the city. Yep, that's us. Transcript party. Did they ever have a proper TikTok for the evening and morning of her texts and all the crap she did? So just like a full timeline? I mean,
I don't go on TikTok too much, if at all. Oh, you mean TikTok the app or timeline?
Yeah. We'll have to come back to that because either way, I'm sure there's some people talking about it on TikTok, but I don't know if you guys like use TikTok and I put a timeline together, you guys can just make the TikTok for it. I'm not really on there.
TikTok stresses me out. I don't know how to use TikTok.
Well, I go on there and like I'll be on there for 2 seconds and it'll be like funny video, it'll be a food video, and then it's like some girl with like no clothes on dancing, and I'm like,
right.
Like no matter what I do, it always just goes that direction. Like
the rabbit hole.
Like good to you, girl. I'm sure you're getting money. Like that's great. Like do you, but I don't got time for this. The issue with this case. Go ahead.
Right.
The issue with this case is Grace's behavior didn't matter. She could and did anything with impunity. I mean, she was literally promised no legal repercussions whatsoever before she turned herself in on October 25th. So, how much was Holly's transcripts? You know, I don't know exactly. I can look at the page count because it's 430 per page. I think it's 430 per page. But when I had asked the court reporter for, I think she just did it by days because I'd wanted specifically, for the sake of time, to get Grace Jabbari's transcripts first. And she quoted me, and then they ended up being the other witnesses as well. But I think it's because I had asked for 12-4 through 12-8 that it's just a whole day order. That's just how they were going to come, which is fine because now we have the other ones anyway. That box is checked off. But, I mean, Holly's transcripts were probably only a fraction of the total amount because it's not a full day of testimony.
No, she wasn't there that long.
But it was 430 a page, and whatever her transcript length is, whatever that math is. The DA's discovery level seems to be the same as Trump and Giuliani. So that's, okay, so I'm not familiar with the discovery in those cases at all, but it seems like the Rolling Stone had to come up and be like, hey, DA, here's something you should look at. And then they're like, oh my God, here's a packet of evidence we want to submit. Like the DA didn't go and do any work on their own. And then a lot of that surveillance footage was Priya Chaudhry went out and got that from the organizations themselves. Like the Lafayette building that was turned over because Priya had gone and communicated with them and their attorneys produced the surveillance footage. Lucy's, the manager, went and produced it because Priya went in and asked. So a lot of this stuff that we have as the evidence, even though the prosecution made their own compilation of it that cuts important moments out, and they're the ones that bear the burden of proof, it's one thing for the defense to curate something, but it's very different when the prosecution curates something because they're the ones that are supposed to pursue justice.
Right.
And they're cutting out the part, for example, it was Blabette that noticed it. On Lafayette, when Jonathan Majors walks by the strangers, where Max with the cap is trying to run after them, their compilation cuts that part out, where Grace Jabbari chases after Jonathan Majors. Their clip of the video stops as soon as Jonathan Majors walks by, and she goes... And then it stops. So, you know, the DA's discovery was lazy. And then as soon as they got the stuff as it came in, they immediately seemed to have looked for a way to make it look better for their case. So really shady all around.
Yeah, but it seems like they got away with it, huh?
I mean, I want to keep applying pressure, but I mean, I don't know how much I can do. If Adam Foss, if they're suing, if Jonathan Majors takes any action, that's a little step forward, but stuff like that can't really change without an appeal that changes the underlying the statutes or sets precedent. It has to be adjudicated. And then she literally saw videos of him in those clothes. How do you not recognize them?
Right.
I mean, she didn't want to identify them buttons either. She's like, I don't know if he has a white t-shirt. I don't know. How would I know if he owns any white tees? Like,
right. That's the same exact thing.
And like, do you not know the gender? Like, is there any man on this earth that has not owned a white tee?
They're literally undershirts. I mean,
Like,
they're just glorified undershirts.
yeah, she was trying to set him up. That's that timeline there, making that make sense.
Mm-hmm.
She was just dry. Well, we're
Oh,
thankful for you too, because like sometimes you guys will say stuff in the chat, and I'm like, holy crap, I just like read that and glossed over it, and then the chat will be like, oh my god, she just said this. Why would she say that? Why didn't
yeah.
Jonathan's team demand Grace's second phone? I'm pretty sure that they did, but it wasn't produced. That's the problem. The prosecution
Well,
didn't apply the pressure, and then the fact that she was arrested for charges where this should also have been part of an investigation is another layer, because that's, two discoveries then where this opportunity was missed. But apparently
right.
this is where her WhatsApp messages are all logged, which, can you imagine what those look like?
Right. And she let me see, I feel like during Holly's testimony they did pull up some text messages from that WhatsApp conversation.
Do you
Uh,
know if they were
but I
produced? Can
think
you
they
visualize it if they were produced from Holly?
that's what I was about to say. I think they came from Holly's side.
Yeah,
Um,
if we can look at those, if we can get them, or if it says, I'm sure they'll be like, which is the text on the right hand side, we'll know who produced them.
mm-hmm. Well,
So
WhatsApp is green. I think the colors are green and black, like the bubbles.
yeah, so they'll probably
Um,
establish that.
yeah. But I'm trying to think. I know the phone that belonged to Jonathan, she had left in London because I don't know if we got to that part yet, but Priya did ask about the phone.
She has asked about it. I think she
Yeah.
asked about it more than one time though, right? I
And
think.
she said, "Well, where's the phone?" And she said, "Do you still have the phone?" And she goes, "Yes." Um,
I
so
mean, she's holding on to what's got to be an old ass iPhone now, just for the sake of it.
probably
Like
the
that
14.
phone is like pushing on those, like when it gets slow because they want you to like
Yeah,
get a new
start
one. All
slowing
the
down.
updates are bricked, like, and she's just like she's probably just still holding on to it like for
Like
dear
my
life. Like
last
this is her
phone.
only memento.
Ridiculous. Absolutely
So
ridiculous.
so all these times she moved her hair back all night because she's fidgety. And yeah, okay, so Danny, when she described herself as being fidgety because of, trying to cover up how many times she
Yeah,
touched her hair through
said,
the night, she sounds like to me from reading the transcript, she looked over to the jury at this point and was like, as you can probably see, like she's like, I'm fidgety, so as you can probably tell. Like I can picture her looking over and cheesing over at
she
that one
did do a lot
juror.
of little pseudo charming things. Like I said, when she first got on the stand, she was real bubbly and and laughing and looking at the jury and giggling. And you saw at the beginning of the transcript where she goes, "Oh, I'm just nervous," and da 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 da.
Yeah, and she's like not
Um,
knowing or like making a joke. I think that's part of like the prosecution knew she would be a a sympathetic witness because of her emotive
mm-hmm.
demeanor.
But I don't know if you noticed, she changed her thing to actor. So
Oh, on
that
Instagram,
because she was a dancer before, now
on
she's an actor.
Instagram or the like internet IMDb listing.
I think the IMDb listing is now says
Did
actress.
did that use? I noticed that. Did it used to
I
for
don't
sure
remember
say
ever saying
dancer?
actress because I had been looking her up since day one because I was curious to see who
Interesting.
she was.
Because when I saw it, I was like, well, maybe since it's like maybe that's just like the title that they curated to put at the top of the search engine listing, the search engine results page. And I was like,
It
because
changed. It
because
didn't
the
always
search
change.
engine can pull what it
Yeah.
wants to feature or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't know the exact science behind that, but that could have changed itself. But I do know she did make her Instagram private again.
Oh, it's
So
private again. Okay,
yeah,
because it was open again for a while, but then you couldn't comment. So now it's private
it's
again.
completely privated again. She hid them butt cheeks. Like they're not just, you don't just open up her third picture
Really?
was her butt cheeks with a skirt tucked up into a waistband. So
Really? Oh no.
it's her third picture.
No, ma'am.
She's like, maybe this isn't a good look. Let me go private again because this girl Cat's on the internet talking about me. I'm 20 minutes backed
Exactly.
up. Yeah, you got to put on that like 1.5 speed. 2 parts behind, but Cat is live and has Danny, so I skipped ahead. Well,
Oh,
okay, so in any case, the they're gonna go over the same details over and over, but the point is you're gonna see a different story and different things come out, and that's not always the case. Like not every witness. This doesn't happen with every witness. It can happen because of basic recall issues. It's always good for any prosecutor or defense to ask about a same situation more than once and in a different way, because that's just the nature of memory. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's infallible. There's also, when you ask a question, you might not think to answer in a certain way, or you might leave out a detail, and it's good to try to elicit that. But with some witnesses, and I would say Grace Jabbari for sure, when you ask them about something a second time, it's a whole new story.
Yeah.
Like it's a totally
With
different
extra
story.
details. Yeah.
So nothing wrong with like going through these readings in a different order, because it's going to go over the same events. You're just going to
Mm-hmm.
see them answered differently and
Because it
questioned a
will
little
get to a
differently.
point where she says that Jonathan actually slammed her up against the side of the car. It went
Well,
from throwing her in the car like a football to actually slamming her up against, and there was no video to show that.
I do think she said that once. It was like part of a long paragraph, because I remember stopping and saying, "Well, she's saying shoved, and we're going to see that that's not what." I remember like having pause when I saw that one word. It was in a paragraph of her describing.
Mm-hmm.
She had just described that she was asked, "And do you remember where the car was parked when this happened?" And she was like, "No, no." And then she was like, "Did you remember anything at all?" And she's like, "Well, yeah, actually, it was pulled up to the sidewalk. I think it was on the sidewalk, actually. The car was in the middle of the street." And you've watched
Right.
these videos.
Why would
like,
somebody drive up on a sidewalk in New York City?
and I think that was like her way of, she didn't know that the video was gonna be shown in the middle of the street. Maybe she thought it was gonna start somewhere else. Maybe she thought the
Mm-hmm.
prosecution wouldn't do that to her.
Right. They
But
probably wouldn't have, but then the defense has the same right to play the same video. So
yep. Yep, that's what I'm thinking. Probably wasn't dirt under her nails. I wouldn't have been surprised if it was Jonathan's skin.
that's what I think it was. Because again, she scratched. It was a long scratch on his. I think they showed it on the Good Morning America thing, and then his face.
Yeah, and I can't. So I just assumed that the face pictures couldn't come in because they weren't letting any injury pictures in, because there was no self-defense argument. Maybe they argued a relevance thing. But to see that face scratch picture not come in because of foundation, lack of foundation, is
Mm-hmm.
insane to me. The metadata is there. So there's not a, forensic
Mm-hmm.
foundation issue. And then she testifies that it's his face. Like, it's
Right.
him. The
And did
foundation
you
should have been
see
there.
in the beginning of her testimony where Priya kept asking her if she was screaming at him when he rounded the corner, and she asked her that like 3 or 4
Oh, yeah. And
times.
she was just like, I wouldn't say that, no.
And she was trying to establish, because remember I had put in my
That there was only one British voice.
but the body language during that testimony was crazy, because she asked her, Priya paused, looked at the judge, looked back at Grace, asked her the question again. She said no. She looked at the judge, took a drink of water, looked back at, almost like how when you're trying to get a kid, give them a chance to tell the truth, and so you ask them 3 or 4 different times before you haul off and just smack
Like
them.
holding your hands like.
Yeah, so like she kept, and then I think about after the third time, she looked at the judge and I'm sure you read that, asked him if she could enter into evidence the video of when they
Yeah, and he was still like, no.
and he said no. So it was like no matter how much she tried to lay foundation for certain evidence, the judge just wasn't hearing it, because
Well, I'm shocked that we're getting this, because this was an impeachment. This video that we're going through right now with the police, that's an impeachment. If she wasn't honest in these answers right now to say no, I didn't answer, or yes, the first thing I said is I don't know what's going on right now. This was for impeachment. The only reason, based on the way Priya's getting this in, it's a refresh your recollection, because you just answered that you didn't remember not having an answer when the police ask you what your name is. So,
but it's muted, right? So we'll never know.
yep. Although I think Priya did a decent job of like reading the lines, which shows you Priya like read this or watched this video over and over to memorize the lines herself. But yeah, and then flicking is the new scratch.
Yeah.
And then only when the jury stops trying to make ice happen. Yeah, because they wanted that damn testimony read back.
Somewhere.
The ice cube. But yeah, I'm telling you, it's like really, and it's like, that's not even to like blame anything on Chloe. It's just that's human nature. That's the way memory works. Like, if me and Danny have a conversation today and she says something about the color red, and then later I'm like, someone asked me 4 months from now, do you remember when you're reading the transcripts, reading anything about the color red? Maybe I'll say like, yeah, I do vaguely remember that, because I'm associating reading the transcripts right now with a separate conversation, Danny just mentions the color red, you know?
Right.
So, and that's all we've got. That's why Chloe didn't know, well, what hand was it? Did you see any injuries on her finger? Where were you holding the ice cube to? She's like, oh, I was intoxicated. Like,
and she said she was, and that's the thing.
before the shot, she was intoxicated.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, handheld from the champagne ice bucket on the couch, but there's no surveillance of it. And then, yep. Yeah, I definitely think the DA wanted to hone in on that ice cube to establish that there was supposedly an injury there. But we have testimony now that the finger was red and swollen at this point, and the pictures don't show that. Yeah, she didn't know about Jonathan Major's degree. She didn't know the name of the play. She didn't care about that man.
Crazy that she was like, I didn't know he. I knew he went to Yale. I didn't know he had what?
Chill.
That's kind of important if you're planning on getting taken care of for the rest of your life.
Or not even for that, but like, what's the first questions like a parent asks their child? Like, where do they go to school? Where do they live? What do they do for a living? Like, you've never had to figure out those answers. Just to all you had to talk about to your friends was how big the house was, how great the house was, how amazing, this is the nicest thing you've ever seen.
But it makes you wonder then, what kind of lawyers are her parents? Because I'm like, that's the nicest house you've seen? I mean, I get living humbly, but how humbly were they living? That's the best house you've ever seen?
Who knows? So let me read this to find some more, let's see if she starts telling some truth. Let's play, I don't think I'll play devil's advocate for that long. I just don't think it's even that possible, but maybe. So she's going into when she's cleaning off this ear, but not medically. When did you do that? It was maybe after I spoke to Holly, before I fell asleep again on the bed. And you say that you remember doing it? Yeah, I remember doing it. Now she remembers. What time did you do it? As I said, after I had spoken to Holly when I was going, saying, I'm locking the door because I need another sleep. You said you talked to Holly a few times, so which time was it? One of the times we were on the phone. Do you know which time? No, maybe after the first time. And where did you clean your ear? In the bathroom. Excuse me, in the bedroom. In the same bedroom you were where you woke up and say there was blood on the pillow, is that right? Yeah, that was the bed. That's the only bed I ever slept in, and the bathroom is adjoining there, about 5 steps away. What did you use to clean your ear? I cleaned my hair, as I said, with water. Just water? Yes. Did you use anything else? No. Miss Jabbari, you've seen a lot of the videos of yourself at the club, right? Not a lot, no. Have you seen any? I've seen some, yes. The ones you posted. Mm-hmm. Objection. It's the truth. Oh, that's Jabbari saying it's the truth. The answer stands.
Snarky, yeah.
Those are actually videos of you at Lucy's, correct? Yes, correct. You do not dispute that is you in the videos. I do not dispute that. And Mr. Jabbari, the people should... And so, were her parents still in the court on this day? This would have been the day 2 that she was testifying.
Yeah.
And then, because they don't end up, like, staying the whole time, right?
No.
So...
They, Tuesday... They came Monday, but obviously she didn't testify Monday, because they came Monday afternoon, realized she wasn't going to testify, and then they left. They were there Tuesday. They were there Wednesday. They were gone by the time she testified on Friday, because, she still had some stuff to say on Friday.
I took a glance at that. It really wasn't anything, guys. They do not ask her one single question about those text messages. They do not ask her anything, not even just to establish what injury, if any. They ask her diddly squat. Like, I don't think I've ever said the phrase diddly squat in my life. They ask her diddly squat. Like, nothing. They basically just have her read them, and that's it. Which, that's asinine to me, because they already read parts of those texts earlier in testimony. Mm-hmm. And we can't get a picture of Jonathan Major's face, as she says it's Jonathan, because we don't know whose white tee he's wearing. And yet she can go up and read text messages without establishing any relevance, anything like that. All because of the question, you didn't tell police. You were afraid to tell police that something had happened to you. And the text message doesn't even involve telling the police and being afraid to tell the police.
Right.
It's about a totally different line of professional. So I hate that. But I'm sure we all do.
You know me, I'm trying to be the glass half full person in terms of this whole defense situation, but because all of us intellectually thought that with all the doubt that was planted, the strategy they took was proper, right? Because you don't anticipate that you're going to get 6 complete idiots in the jury. And yeah, I said it. So question my patriotism if you want to.
Well, and I
I
also
mean,
think that the strategy involved this idea that Detective Mejia was going to be able to talk about the arrest because the judge
right.
said you're going to be able to talk about the arrest. And then anytime, even with Jabbari and, how she heard about the arrest, oh, I texted Kelly Galloway about it when I heard about it. And then my lawyer handled communications from there because Kelly was probably like, girl, don't text me this shit. Like,
Right.
get Ross to text me. Because now there's a text message record of her sending this article where she sees Prius put in the news. There's an iCard out for her arrest. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's not a good text message record for a DA to have. Um, all those questions about any deal. And she's like, no, I don't know. And then Detective Mejia is not allowed to testify either. So if you go into the trial thinking you're going to be able to talk about the arrest, and then you can't get this cheek picture in where he's cut up,
Mm-hmm.
and everything's sustained about the arrest, that could crumble part of your trial strategy
Yeah, that
based
is
on what the judge said you had permission to do. So,
because
I
they
mean,
didn't.
you'll
I mean,
never know.
they showed Mejia the pictures, and he was able to identify what they were,
And they didn't
but
publish to
the
the
jury
jury.
couldn't see it. The jury wasn't allowed to see it. I could see it because the way they handed them over, anybody behind the prosecution could see. But then, the judge was like, turn him around, like make sure, the jury doesn't see it. So it was the one of his face and the one of his
The
forearm.
scratch, the flick,
Mm-hmm.
the flick.
The flick that tore skin off. Yeah, that one.
So he said, those are actually videos of you at Lucy's, correct? Yes, correct. You do not dispute that that's you in the videos. Do not dispute that. And Miss Jabbari, the people showed you a video without sound of yourself at 129 Lafayette, right? Yes, that's the corner. Yes, yes. And in that video, you can see, and I think you testified about this, that you were brushing your hair behind your ear, correct? Right. And you're doing that with the fingers on your right hand, correct? Yes. And in fact, in the videos between 12:41 and 3:30 in the morning, you are frequently brushing your hair behind your right ear back with your right hand, correct? Yes. And your nails were in exactly that condition that night, correct? I don't know. Perez objection as to that. So he doesn't know why he's objecting, just to that. If she knows, I do not know, to be honest with you. In what condition? In the condition of those photos are taken at 11 in the morning, correct? That photo? Yes. Yes. And the photos you took of yourself at 8 in the morning had your fingernails in them, right? Yes. And those are the same condition that your fingernails were in at the club, right? I don't know. Did you cut your nails when you came home? No. Did you alter your nails in any way when you came home? No. So the condition your nails were in when you were at the club could be the same as when you took those photos at 8 a.m., right? Asked and answered. Court says you can answer that. Well, so this is her paragraph answer. This is I think we're getting a panic
Mm-hmm.
paragraph. Well, I think if I was touching blood, they could have got to my nails. They could have got to my nails. Who describes blood as they? I think if I was touching blood, they could have got to my nails. So that
Yeah.
would have helped a bit. But I wasn't aware of that. I wasn't focusing on that in the moment. This is a panic paragraph, guys. This is her trying not to answer this
Mm-hmm.
question. You
Qualified.
said she does this a lot. Like, it's a panic paragraph. There's not as many likes in it, though, to be fair, as there were in other ones. You said if you were touching blood, Miss Jabbari, did you ever notice any blood in your fingernails while you were at the club? No. Did you notice any blood in your fingernails when you came home? No. And you took a number. Did you clean any blood out of the fingernails of your right hand when you came home? No. I did wash my face, so I don't know, with my hands. But so I don't know, but with my hands. So she wants the jury to just infer that the dirt could have fell out of the nails while she's
Right.
washing her face. Didn't she say she used a cleaner, not water or something? Who knows? We'll have to get to that
That's what
part
I thought. Like,
because when
you
you
know,
use a cleaner, you're not like
yeah.
there's not like flowing water rushing under your
Right.
fingernails. But the specific question is, did you clean under the fingernails of your right hand when you came home? No. And did the police, when they arrive, clean the blood from under your fingernails of your right hand when you came home? No. Did the medics do that? No, I don't recall that. Did anyone at Bellevue clean blood from under your fingernails on your right hand? I don't think so. Your Honor, on stipulation, we're entering Defense Exhibit 118 and 109. And the people have seen those. There's no objection. It's admitted. It's published to the jury. Mr. Jabbari, Defense Exhibit 118 is a photo you took of yourself that morning around 8, correct? Correct. And that's a photo of you laying in the bed, correct? Yes. And in that photo, there is, first of all, there's no blood visible on the pillow, is there? Not that I can see. And if we could please zoom in on the fingernails. Can the jury see that? Your Honor, can you see that? Yes. Mr. Jabbari, there's no blood under your fingernails in that photo, is there? Not that I could see, no. And that's one of the photographs that you did not turn over until this weekend, correct? That is correct, yes. If we could please put up Defense Exhibit 109. Zoom in more. So how was she turning over photos if the defense was supposed to have already, I'll have to read Ryan Strick's testimony, but did they not extract everything from the one phone? So this either has to be from the phone she never turned over, and she's gone back to look for more. Wonder why. Because they knew that Molyneux packet wasn't going to come in and just win the case for her.
Right.
Because she would have already known this weekend.
Right. And if there's a lot... That's why I don't really understand. The entire time that Ryan Strick was on the stand, the only line of questioning was this metadata, geolocation. So I'm thinking every time they pull out a picture, they're going to say, here's the metadata, date, time. None of that. So I just was like, what was the point in going through all that if you're not going to try to pinpoint times?
Well, it's also hard because they have the digital evidence analyst there, but then they go in and work on the compilation again after he testifies. They work on the compilation Monday night again, and then bring it back Tuesday morning with changes to it. So
they actually worked on that when Grace's family left. The defense and the prosecution had disappeared for about an hour after lunch, and we just were all sitting there because they were editing everything at that time.
I have questions.
Because that first day was when it was brought up that they did not want the jury seeing it the way Ryan Strick created it. And so that afternoon, after lunch, during lunch and after lunch, they were fixing it, pulling it apart so that when they presented it, she lied in front of God.
Well, she evaded all them religion questions. It's not, she couldn't say that she learned at some point that Jonathan is a Christian.
See how she was trying to minimize how spiritual he is, right? No, we just prayed for dinner. We just prayed for, trying to make it seem like that's not.
He prayed and I would join him.
Right. Like it was by force.
Yeah, she clearly cleaned it way before because it was healed in the sense that it wasn't bleeding when they picked her up from the floor.
Right. No active oozing, bleeding, nothing.
Yeah, and I don't know. She literally testified that she was laying and waking up from the pain because she's sitting on the right side of her, or she's laying on the right side of her body. So it's not like it would even be like, oh, if she was bleeding, it would just pulled on her head, her ear, because she's laying on her left side. She would say that she was on her right side in the bed.
Mm-hmm.
She'd be like, I tried not to lay there, but then I'd be laying on my right side and I'd wake up and it hurt. It doesn't make sense. See, this is why I need the chat. So I feel like I'm not just crazy reading this and finding the worst of it. And I'm not just making up inconsistencies. No. Because according to there's one person now who says they read the transcripts, even though they're asking for the transcripts and accusing me of having inside information, which to me implies you haven't read the transcripts that I posted publicly. Because why would you accuse me?
And if you do, so...
And then they're like, you should trust people like The Guardian, the news outlet, because they have access to the transcript. So there's this person that's saying that they read the transcripts, but also asking for the transcripts and also using they to talk about other people that have the transcripts. So they haven't read that shit, No. They're just BSing. But they say everything in the transcripts makes Jabbari look like a victim. No, girl, you definitely didn't read the transcripts.
No, it's not at all, actually.
But yeah. So going to what Lucky's saying here about being called a conspiracy theorist. Here it is. There's literally one person that says, I haven't had anyone besides this person who I don't think has read the transcripts. Not one person that I know is looking at these transcripts has come forward and said, hey, this is really damning for Jonathan Majors.
Right.
Not a soul.
And it's killing them. That's why they're just harping on. Now they have nothing else to talk about. So now they're
except them damn text messages. And Coretta.
Coretta, no Coretta. They gave up on everything except
I
Coretta. But you
I
see, he
have
made a
seen
statement about
everybody
that.
has made a prop. Everybody has made Coretta into a prop in a way that denigrates Jonathan Majors. I'm not
Hmm.
seeing anyone that's on like not even our side, but it's just people that are just like, I don't think it's that big of a deal of a comparison. That's, who wouldn't
It's
want to
not, and it
date?
never was. And then the crazy part about it is all the people that are sitting there, that's her mother, that's her mother. She's entitled to feel that way about her mother. Do they know who Bernice King is? Do they know that Harry Belafonte sued her for theft and tried to get her disbarred? Do
So
they
I don't know
know
that
that?
much about her, but
Oh,
I
she's
love Harry
horrible.
Belafonte, and I know she's super
She's
religious.
horrible.
So
She's not even a Coretta. So, like, how are y'all gonna sit there? That's why I went ham up over there on her page. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, please. But
all I
anyway.
know is I saw that, and if someone's religious versus someone's like very progressive, I think it's just two different ideologies. I don't think either way of either person, but I
Mhm.
think the type of people that are standing behind Grace Jabbari would be very opposed to the type of ideologies that Bernice, from what
Right.
I've learned
She's
in just one day,
anti-LGBT.
yeah, like it's just not
I'm confused.
compatible, and
Pick
they'll
a
stop
side.
agreeing with her instantly once they learn that, but they'll agree with
Mhm.
her in the moment because they don't know any better.
But I
So,
think that's
and
why it
I
got
don't think
quiet.
did she come out and clarify that her post was even my mother was not a prop? To me, that
No.
wasn't specifically addressed to being Jonathan Majors. It was the fact that the internet is sitting there. Coretta Scott King is trending because
But
people
she
keep
needs
saying
to
the name.
clarify that then. Stop with the little slick one-liners and clarify. My mom wasn't a prop. I need you guys to stop.
Or like
Um,
seeing her name everywhere because that
right.
implies
That's
that it's
it.
all of it. It's not
But
even saying it's just people talking about. It's not pro majors at that point. It's just anyone
mhm,
talking about rather than people being able to run with the inference that it's about Jonathan Majors.
right.
And so I don't think that inference is fully clear. I understand why people are saying that it was she's telling Jonathan Majors to stop. I don't think
Mhm,
that that's clear at all. I think the idea is I'm getting on the internet and I keep seeing people making Coretta jokes and I'm going to
mhm.
post something. But at the same time, yeah. And then I don't know about her book deal, but she has some book coming out.
And she's a whole attorney, so she knows how to express herself very well. So you could have made that very clear in 144 characters, lady. So I think she was
Yep.
purposely ambiguous
Agreeing.
just so that she can get both sides of the fence.
Uh,
Hey,
so,
Sana.
yeah, Sana's got my favorite picture. I'm gonna just leave this sitting here while I read the next part. We'll just have her face up here while we read it. So they're zooming in on the fingernails. And this is a photograph you took of your finger and sent to your friend Holly at 8:13, correct? I took a few of the same, I think, but one that looked like that, potentially that one, I sent to Holly, yes. There's no blood under your right fingernails in this photograph either, correct? Correct. And if you look at the fingernail on your right middle finger at the top, you can see that there's a light mark under the white part of your fingernail. Can you see that? What are we looking at? Yes, yes, I see that. That's from your nail being pulled back, correct? Oh. Yeah, I know what that looks like. I used to work in
Mhm.
retail. Try to stock them shelves. You jam your finger, you've got a white line across your nail for the next week. So, you see that? What are
Mhm.
we looking at? Yes, yes, I see that. That's from your nail being pulled back, correct? No. Oh, you're not. Now you have certainty. The
Right.
answers that we get certainty from are wild. What is that mark from? It's because I usually have like shellac or something like that. Who calls nail lacquer shellac? Is that a thing in Britain?
I
Shellac
don't
is
know if
like
she's trying to say, you know how when you do the gel nail polish, and sometimes if it peels off, it peels a layer of your nail off. I don't know if that's
maybe.
what she's talking about.
Oh,
When
and they
she,
get very weak and brittle. They're probably weak and brittle because of your diet at this point in time.
yeah, liquor is not a good diet.
That mark is not on any of your other fingernails, is it? No. And it's not present on wait, so what finger are they looking at?
The one
The
of the
right
finger
middle
that was
finger.
injured. Yeah.
Wow. So right middle finger.
It's the finger that was injured.
That's an impact.
Mm-hmm.
Cause you damn sure can't get your nail pulled back from someone twisting and pulling your finger.
No.
Wow, holy shit. This is so fucked up.
But nobody noticed. Nobody noticed. Or they just
Okay, so
pretended
it
that
is
they didn't
shellac. And I'm pulling this up because I can still have Sana's face.
know.
But that's like how I feel reading it. Like Sana's face, like, girl, you just said
Like,
that
what?
you're trying to downplay. And good eye, whoever noticed the like nail bent white line. I mean, I like to think I'm observant, but I'm not going to catch everything. I don't think I would catch that. Um, but that mark is not on any other of your fingernails, is it? No. And that makes sense, right? Because if you're like swinging at something, at least for
It's,
me, maybe other people have weird shaped fingers. This is the first thing that's going to make contact if you're going straight at
that
it
middle
because it's
is the
sticking out.
longest one. Yeah.
Yep. And then no. And it's not present in any of the other photos of your fingers from either of your hands, is it? I don't know that. I could just see it there. Do you want me to have a look? Yes. Do I have them all? I'd be like, can I see your hands right now? I think if you look at 103, both of your hands are in it. Do you have it? I do not have that. So they bring 103 to the witness. I mean, the photos, I want to say, aren't clear enough to see that. I don't know. I don't want to not. I'm handing you People's Exhibit 17 in evidence. It's probably a clearer version for you. People's 17 in evidence being shown to the witness. Miss Chaudhry, and if you could put up Defense Exhibit 103, which is the same thing, I could see it. You could see? The question is, can I see it on another photo? No, the question is, you just testified that mark on your fingernail is because you apply shellac to your nails, correct? Well, as in, I have weak nails after I've had nails on. But that same white mark is not present on any of your other... I don't know. Have we seen pictures of her with fake nails on?
That's why I don't know what she means by shellac, because her nails are not long and they were clearly had nothing on them that night. So I don't know if she's talking about gel nail polish or if she's talking about an acrylic set of nails, which is not practical for a dancer. So I don't know.
She's lucky her Instagram is private because I'd be like, let's go look at her nails right now and see how often she wears acrylics.
Well, I mean, there's other pictures of her online that, let me see. I don't know.
Detective Danny checking out the level of dust.
I mean, I went on her page and I looked a few different times and like for instance, when she's looking like a bag lady on the red carpet, she had no nails on.
I was gonna say, Robert says, and she knew that was coming up, so she could have planned to have put nails on. You know what I mean? She knew that was like a plan to go there, right?
Right, no nails. So, but she was hardly even dressed. So
and I'm not a nail person, so I don't care if someone doesn't like go get fake nails for some type of event at all. But
no nails.
But to me, it's like if you're not a nail person, who told you to say all this? Maybe she is a nail person, but
I don't think so, because I showed you 2 pictures already with no nails, and these are actual. That's a professional picture. Did I show you this one?
And Robert's mentioning that the Breakfast Club has made so much fun over the credit statement, and like the Breakfast Club be clowns sometimes. It sucks because like they have a reach, they could be they could have a lot of impact on something, and it seems like they do it for worse instead of better.
And they always choose the worst possible decision, because that's where they get their ratings. Here's another picture of her no nails. So I mean, she has no nails.
Yeah, I just don't think she's like the type of person to just like maintain having nails. It's like, you can't just have acrylic nails and not maintain them. You have to go like every 2 weeks.
Here it looks like she has the shellac on her nails, but they don't look like press-on. I said press-on like I'm 90 years old. They don't look like acrylic nails. It looks like you put the nail polish over your, what do you call it? The either the dipping powder or the gel nail polish.
I was gonna say, yeah, and
it's really thick because you have to do the gel nail like 3 and 4 layers.
I say Chill nails everything he does a video on. And then let's see, Jonathan Majors apparently would have done better comparing Jabbari to Sexy Red. I mean, they both like to wear them low cut V things.
Right.
Oh, so press-ons. Okay. Yeah, I don't know the answer to this type of stuff.
Lead press-on now. That's like so 80s. Like, really? Lead press-on now. They don't even make those anymore. He said lead press. Remember those?
Oh, and look at her answer here. But that same white mark is not present on any of your other fingernails. Is that right? No, not that same mark. Just say no, girl. Like, she can't just say no. Miss
Right.
Jabbari, you have, according to you, your ear was bleeding from an injury you had by 12:41 a.m., correct? I believe that, yes. This is beyond reasonable doubt. This is not I believe. Because then she's going to testify on the redirect. Do you know who caused your injuries? Jonathan Majors. But here we have her saying I believe.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how a prosecution's supposed to work. This is not a balance of probabilities type of standard of proof. This is supposed to be beyond reasonable doubt.
Right.
And our only witness besides the driver, who's apparently not credible because he was apparently paid, if that's the case, then the only witness we have to what happened in the car is Grace Jabbari herself, and she only believes that something happened at 12:41. And that's where I mean, that's huge. And you did not notice any blood. She's crazy. She can't, and this is why Priya's doing this type of questioning, is because that's how you elicit these uncertain answers for the things she needs to be certain about. Because she's too on edge about trying not to be certain about these other things that could catch her up. So that's why you got to keep asking about these things, because you'll get that I believe, but I'm not sure about the main question.
Mm-hmm.
And you did not notice any blood until, according to you, you woke up. Is that right? That's true, yes. And you did not see any blood in your hair for the 8 hours between 12:41 when you took these photographs, almost 8 hours around 8 a.m. Is that right? That's correct, yes. Nor did you experience your hair being stuck in your ear between 12:41 and when you woke up to find your hair stuck to your ear. Is that right? Yeah, I did not notice until I woke up. And in fact, throughout the night, you brushed your hair behind your right ear, correct? Yes. And according to you, you woke up and your hair was stuck to your ear, and you didn't photograph that. Is that right? I didn't photograph the hair being stuck to my ear. Correct. That's correct. When you come home and you undressed, you were wearing a white and green blouse, correct? That's what I was wearing before I undressed, yes. Why do you have to qualify that? Just say yes.
Yes or no?
Like, come on. Right. I can just picture him being like, that's what I was wearing, yes. Like, right. And there was no blood on that shirt, correct? I didn't look for blood, so I believe no, but I didn't look. You never looked? I never looked. Did you wash that shirt? No. Where is that shirt? I don't know. Do you remember what you did with it? I didn't pack it with me to leave, so... Do you remember after you withdrawn? We'll get to it later. Mr. Jabbari, did you wash the pillowcases before the police arrived? No. So the condition of the pillowcases when the police arrived was in the same condition in which you had woken up on the bed, is that right? Yes. And you've reviewed the body-worn footage, correct? Parts of it. Did you see any blood on the pillow? I didn't. I don't believe I was shown a part where they were inspecting the pillows. I just want to confirm, Miss Jabbari, you never saw blood on your shirt, correct? Correct. Miss Chaudhry, we could take that down, thank you. I just want to confirm one thing about what happened in the car. You testified in this courtroom that the altercation lasted 2 minutes, is that correct? Yeah, I said I wasn't sure of the exact timing, but I felt I could imagine it was about 2 minutes. As I said, it felt fast, and the timing was interchangeable in my mind, you know. Do you know how long it took? No. Could it have been longer than 2 minutes? Yes. Could it have been less than 2 minutes? I don't believe it could have been that much less. The whole altercation? Yes. Yeah, no. I don't believe it would be less than 2 minutes. And you testified in this courtroom that you were in excruciating pain during this altercation. Is that right? Yes, I was in excruciating pain. And then you also testified that you were quiet during this altercation. Is that right? I believe I said when I was speaking and when I wasn't. What? I'm sorry, I don't understand your answer. Me either. Like I said that when I was being vocal and when then at times I wasn't. Mr. Jabbari, were you screaming when you were in excruciating pain? No. Can you describe what, if any, noises you made while you were in excruciating pain? Just taking it. So, is that a noise? No, just letting it happen in a way. I learned not to fight back.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's the telltale.
I learned not to fight back, but what other fight did you have? What other fight did you testify to that you learned not to fight?
That sounds like she studied. She studied how to come off a certain way.
Right. I learned to just ball up in the corner and let them pummel me. Like, where'd that even come from?
And then they don't let her strike it. It's overruled. Jabbari, is it your testimony that you made no noise while you were in excruciating pain? Yes or no? Yeah, I would say so. If I have to say yes or no. This entire episode happened in a car with the driver, is that right? Yes. Except for when he slammed me against the door. That was outside the car. He slammed you against the door?
Yeah.
When he threw me back in the car. How do you get slammed against the door while you're being thrown into something? You're either slammed against the door and you can't get in. Oh, she's going. She's asking my questions. Sorry. Did you say that he slammed you against the door? Well, you know, the roof of the door. He slammed you against the roof of the door frame. Is that the right word? It's your testimony that Mr. Major slammed you against the door frame? Yeah, from the video you could see it. You're not supposed to recall things because you see it in a video, Grace Jabbari.
Mm-hmm.
I'm asking about your testimony, not the video. Is it your testimony that Mr. Major slammed you against the door frame of the SUV? Yeah. What part of you did he slam against the door? My head hit as he was pushing me back in the car. What part of your head hit? Back of my head. The back of your head? Yes. Can you explain how that happened? He lifted me up and kind of threw me in the car, and my head hit on the frame of the door. Is it your testimony that Mr. Majors picked you up, facing you, so you were face to face? We were face to face, yes. And so when he put you into the car, he hit your head against the back of your head, against the roof of the car, is that right? I want to pause here because the jury could have decided that this is what they're charging him for. The bump on the back of the head. It could have nothing to do with the ear.
Right.
So, because I do see people arguing that, like, you know, her ear was bleeding and that's why they did it, or it was the finger and that's why they did it. But, like, they could just, he bumped her in the head, he was grabbing her, he picked her up. That could be the reason. Nobody knows exactly why what the jury is attributing these charges to, what exact mechanism or movement. Right. But it could be this, because they did want to replay that part. And it has nothing to do with her ear.
I wish we could find the black juror.
Like, please. Just go around looking for people in bubble coats in New York City in January.
Red bubble coat and a Barney blue onesie.
Yeah, she's just sitting there quietly going, I'm sorry. Just sitting in the car. Is it your testimony that Mr. Majors picked you up facing you, so you were face to face? We were face to face, yes. And so when he put you into the car, he hit your head against the back of your head, against the roof of the car. Is that right? Yeah. Can you tell us, point where on your head? I felt it about here. So she says, let the record reflect the witnesses pointed to the back of her head, approximately the top of her cranium at the center of the... So she's getting scraped. It's more of a scrape than a clunk where she has to then be lowered. It's a scrape over. Is that correct, Your Honor? It's about the center where the ponytail is. The ponytail may move, but for today, the ponytail is in the center. I've got a better view. Okay. I just want to review with you, Ms. Jabbari. That night, you and Mr. Majors were in a car, and in the same car all night, correct? Yes. And this altercation in the car happened, and then once the altercation happened, you both got out of the car, correct? Yes. And then at some point, you both got back in the car, correct? Yes. And then you actually get back in the car a third time, is that right? Yes. And when, according to you, did Mr. Majors twist your hand behind your back? Is it when you were in the car the first time, or when you got in the car the second time, or the third time? Do you mean the whole night, or do you mean, I mean after you saw the messages? Okay, the first time. Kind of the same, in the same journey of when I saw the messages. So it's your testimony that none of the events that led to any of your injuries happened the second time you got in the car, or the third time you got in the car. Is that right? Yeah, there was, yeah. Oh, we're getting a panic paragraph. Yeah, there was, yeah. When you pushed me into the car the second time we were in there, I can't say whether or not that caused a bruise on my body. I don't know. You were just sure. You were just sure that you got bumped on the head. Right. And now you're yeah, I don't know. What are you referring to when you say, when he pushed me in the car? When we got in the car again and he was sat in the back seat. And notice, yeah, she's not saying, you know, push me into the car. She's not saying she gets hit in the head now that she's saying it again. And throw and push are very different motions.
Right.
When we got in the car again and he was sat in the back seat, is this before or after you met the people on the street? During that moment, we had said, okay, wait, what? The second time we were in there. So she's alleging that he pushes her a second time?
That's what she claimed. But see, I don't even remember a third time them getting in the car. I only remember that first time getting out and in. The first time and then the second time when he's only in there 5 seconds. What third time?
Because he's saying you. So Jabbari, not Jonathan Majors,
Oh,
and
oh yeah,
Jabbari.
because Chloe did testify.
Yeah, so if I scroll back up, it does say, and then you actually get back in the car for a third time. So she could just mean with Chloe.
When Chloe was trying to get her to go home, but then eventually invited her out.
So let me clarify what I read, because I was thinking it was the first time, but she's talking about the second time, or she's confused. In this panic paragraph, it's unclear to me. It says, yeah, there was, yeah. When he pushed me into the car the second time we were in there, I can't say whether or not that caused a bruise on my body. I don't know. So now she is alleging that he pushed her in car part 2.
Now, he did run away a second time.
No, but you get what I'm saying. She's trying to... She doesn't want to say that the injury could have been caused during a second part, but she's also trying to create physical conflict a second part because she knows she strikes him with her hand to rip his coat.
Rips his pocket.
So now she's got to establish he could have pushed me first in that instance because I know you're going to ask me about it. That's what she's doing here. That's why she says the second time we were in there. That was really slick because I didn't realize she mentioned the second time. I just initially blurred this with the first event. What are you referring to when you say, when he pushed me in the car? When we get in the car again and he was sat in the back seat. Is this before or after you met the people on the street? So Priya caught this in the moment that she said that. During that moment, we had met the people on the street. The car pulled up. We got back in eventually. We were talking, and when I asked to see the messages again, he got out of and the car didn't pull up. The car went over there, and Jonathan was going to go find it. We were talking, and when I asked to see the message again, he got out of panicking. I was in his way, so he pushed me. So she knows she's trying to establish self-defense in this situation for herself, because she knows this is when her finger got fucked up. I've always been one thinking like this is when it could have happened, because it's hard. Like, you can't just rip a coat like that without force.
Remember, she ripped the pocket and the button.
Yep.
And he's steady jerking away. He's not just standing there letting her do it.
So she knows she has to clean this up, because I'm confident she knows that's when this injury happened. Reading this, I'm confident she knew this is when. It could have been she didn't know how it was caused. She didn't realize when she was striking at him, because she struck at him at different times. I was thinking she might not actually know. Now I'm confident she knows exactly when she hurt her finger. It was during this moment. It's when she gets in the cab. She may have asked for ice at the club. Maybe she didn't. But she's really trying to make sure. There's no evidence that he pushed her in this moment. There's video of this moment. And I don't know how the prosecution's compilation showed this moment, but you saw more angles of this moment with the button, right? You saw 2 or 3 different angles of it, and the prosecution didn't want to show it. Because
they kept, zooming in, zooming, different vantage points, I guess.
The prosecution knows exactly what happened here. That's nuts to me. So, we were talking, and when I asked to see the messages again, he got out of I was in his way. She corrected herself, just like when she almost said something about her left hand. We were talking, when I asked to see the message again, he got out of I was in his way, so he pushed me. But they get out on the other side of the car as to when they get in. So he's on the right side, she's on the left side. Why would she have been in his way? I don't know if that incident caused the bruise. She's a whole lie. So she doesn't know if that's when she caused the bruise. So now it's only 1 bruise. Who knows? I just want to be clear. You and Mr. Majors get out of the car on the corner of Center and Canal the first time, right? If that's where it is, then yes, I don't remember. And then Mr. Majors runs up the sidewalk and you chase him, correct? I follow him. Yeah, this is I can't wait. I couldn't wait to see this in the transcript. I follow him, yes. And this is why, guys, if you're ever arguing with anyone on X and they're telling you, but she said, you need to take this quote right here.
Yeah, screenshot
and
that whole
the double down.
Yeah.
And then put the video with it. Put the video of her running after him and say, why would you take anything she says seriously? That's it. End of argument. That's all you need. So she follows him. You didn't chase him, correct? I don't know if I would use that word, but I followed him. Yes. Were you running? I was running. Yes. And you were running after him? Yeah. And then you found the people on the street, correct? Correct. And you spoke to the people on the street, correct? I did, yes. And then you saw Mr. Majors again, correct? Yes. And then the car found you and Mr. Majors again, right? Yes. And then you and Mr. Majors got in the car a second time, correct? Yes. And then you and Mr. Majors got out of the car again, right? Yes. And then you and Mr. Majors got in the car a third time. Yeah, it was more like him. I think this is when he grabs the bag for her or something. So Shams, you kind of see it in the end of the second car clip from the prosecution, but we don't have the defense exhibit. But like Shams ends up coming over on the one side of the car. You see him standing there. So maybe we can revisit that. Because now this third time is confusing me. If Majors gets in the car a third time.
I was always confused about the third time because I'm like, I know I didn't see 3 different videos. So I don't know if the third time is like you said, after he left and went to the hotel, because Chloe does testify that.
Yeah, I think this is the moment where you see where everyone's standing around the car, because now Jabbari's saying, yeah, it was more like him. Everyone was around. So how long were you in the car with Mr. Majors the second time you got in? Not very long. I don't know the exact time. What is your best estimate of how long you were in the car with Mr. Majors the second time? A couple minutes. A couple minutes? Yeah, I think so, but it's hard to remember. What happened in the car the second time you got out? And you guys have all seen if you guys have seen my second video clip, because I posted it, I think we timed it. It's like nothing. Like the door is not even closed. She doesn't even close the passenger side door. Mm-hmm. And then they're coming out of the other side. Mm-hmm. And the driver has to come out and close the door for them. And he's just like, what?
Like, what is going on?
This damn white girl. This is after you found the people. The first, yes? Yeah, we were talking, yeah. Just saying, I was like, why are you running away? What's going on? Like, just show me the messages. This is ridiculous. And that's when he got out. I remember at this point for car 2, the friends are still further down the sidewalk. So she's showing out because they're not standing right then and there. It's only the driver that's around. Why are you running away? What's going on? Like, just show me the messages. This is ridiculous. And that's when he got out. Did he touch you at all the second time? Yes. What happened? Galloway says, I'm telling you, the prosecution knows this is where the injury occurred. The prosecution knows this. Asked and answered. I'm sorry? The second time? Asked and answered. The second time in the car, correct? The second time, because they want that he pushed me out of his way to stand. Mm-hmm. The second time in the car, the second entrance to the car, okay. Yes, he pushed me. He pushed you. And where on your body did he push you? I was facing him, and he was facing me, and as he tried to leave, he just pushed me, so I didn't go after him. Well, that's not what we're going to see happen. So I didn't go after him. So who's the aggressor? Like, come on. I was that. She's the one. Because she did the same thing describing the first time, too. So I was sat on the same seat I'd been sitting the whole time, which is right behind the driver. So it's your testimony that Mr. Majors pushed you. Where on your body did he push you? If you're sitting in the seat behind the driver, why would he push you to get outside the other door? It would be different if you said, I was standing between the two seats and he was in the back seat and he had to push me out of the way. But now she says she's sitting in the seat behind the driver. I mean, I don't think she really had time to sit down. This is like literally like, she's probably like leaning in the car yelling at him and he's already trying to get back out as quickly as this happened. I was sat in the same seat. Yeah, and it doesn't make sense. Like, unless she says that she was standing between the second row seats to block someone from the third row from getting out, it doesn't make sense why she would even be blocking his way if he's going out the other door. Right. And she's not asserting that she was standing between the two seats because she's a bad liar. So
horrible liar.
I was sat on the same seat I had been sitting on the whole time, which is the one directly behind the driver. So it's your testimony that Mr. Majors pushed you. Where on your body did he push you? I believe it was like my shoulder area, chest, shoulder. Could you touch yourself the way he pushed you? Like kind of here. So the record reflect that she's touching her left shoulder, which would mean if she's sitting in the driver's seat, he's in the back seat trying to get out the other door. He's going that way, and she's saying she's being pushed here.
But she said the same thing about him bending her arm back. I'm like, how if you're turned this way, is he bending your left arm? It should have been your right arm that he was bending.
I know, I don't understand. Like, I don't know what it is. She could have just gone up there and be like, look, like, I don't know the specifics of any frame by frame moment of this night. Like, I don't know those details. I don't know. I know he pushed me. Like, he pushed me with both hands in this kind of area. But she goes into all these specifics, and it's like, I don't think it's something that anyone would really remember that much in detail. Not all of it. You might remember certain things. If someone twists your arm, you're going to remember that. But, like, when you try to give the details that you think are going to work for you, it just seems unrealistic that you even remember that.
Right.
And then it ends up opening you up for contradictions. But she has something that she knows she needs to prove and convince people of. And yeah, I think that's it. So we're gonna get Sana's face back up on the screen.
She's
Just making it up as she goes along.
She's freestyling tonight.
So it's your testimony that Mr. Majors pushed you. Where in your body? She says this left shoulder. And then, is that right? Yes. And can you describe the force of the push? It was forcible, yeah. Heavy, hard. It was very strong. What was said just before he pushed you? He just didn't want to talk about, like, the messages. So I don't know his exact words, but just unresponsive to my questioning. What are you, like a lawyer now?
Right. I'm telling you.
She's got like the earworm for things that she's heard, and she's just like saying it. Do you remember what questions you asked? Yes. Just I wanted to know who Cleopatra was. I wanted to know how long whatever this thing was had been going on. Who was this girl? Those kinds of questions. Then how is it that... Tell us what happened next. How did Mr. Majors get out of the car? He had climbed across the seats and got out. And that's when I pulled at his shirt because I wanted him to stay in the vehicle. And how was Mr. Majors' body positioned when he pushed you, according to you? He was coming towards me, so you're in the left seat. He's sitting in the third row behind you, and he's coming towards you, but he goes out the door this way.
Right.
So does he like careen around and like come in front of you? That's like what she's describing.
And then decides to go out the other door.
And then goes out the other door. He got out this way, and in doing so, then pushed me out of the way. I was sat there, my body was facing him. Okay, what? He was coming towards me because I was kind of sitting. So you're not sitting now. You like want yourself to sit down until you need yourself to be in a different position for your own. So the car she's like, I'm sitting down, so clearly I wasn't the one attacking anyone. So he was coming towards me because I was kind of sitting. So the car has 2 seats and the back row is like there. So maybe she's like pointing or motioning. I was sat here and my body was facing him. He got out this way and in doing so, then pushed me out of the way. And then I went to grab his shirt in response to him leaving. So she thinks she's justified to act out. She's treating someone leaving her as an excuse for self-defense. That's how she rationalizes this.
Right.
Let me get you some photos of the car. So they bring in, it looks like 4 different photos. Okay, no objection. If we could please publish these, whatever, they're published. No objection. These are all photos of the inside of the car, right? Yes. And we are showing you Defense Exhibit 128. Can the jury see that? Is it possible to pull it up at all? Great. As you were just describing, please tell us, when you got in the car the second time, where you were and where Mr. Majors was. If you would like, you could... Is it okay, Your Honor, if she goes to the TV to point? Point and then just use the mouse so the jurors can see it. He was sat in the back, right between the second and the middle seat. Wait, what? So he was sat in the back, right between the second and middle seat.
And I was sat behind. He sat in the back. Oh, I think she's saying... What?
Is she saying that he's not really fully sitting? Because to me, the second seat is seat in the middle row, and then the middle seat of the back, because the back seats are continuous. They're a bench.
Right,
it's like a bench of 3. So the
then...
middle seat needs to, I mean, maybe she means middle row seat, but I think middle seat means the middle seat of the back. It's like she's describing him levitating.
He would be in the middle seat because when you cut,
you get in. That's where you got to scoot your butt to slide.
Yeah, naturally you would just go sit in the middle if there's nobody else in the back with you.
Especially if you don't want someone to come sit next to you.
Right. So I guess it, as opposed to sitting in the bucket seat, he just went straight through the middle and sat right down. And that means he would just be in the middle of the back row.
And she's like, okay, can you say that so the court reporter will hear you? He was sat in the back on the right, mainly between the right and the middle seat. So far away, closer to the right door, back seat. Now she cleans that up. And I was sat directly behind the driver. But I think she's saying like, he's back he's like as far in the car away from her as he can get. Right. So just to be clear, this is an SUV that has 3 rows of seating, correct? Yes. And it's your testimony that the first incident, when you're in the car and you see the text messages, you and Mr. Majors are sitting in the bucket seats in the second row, correct? Yes. And looking at this photograph, on the right side of the photograph would be the seat behind the driver, correct? Yes. And that is where you were sitting, correct? Yes. The left of the photo shows the seat behind the passenger, correct? Yes. That is where Mr. Majors was sitting, correct? The mouse is very behind, but we were sitting on the 2 in the front, so the mouse is probably super latency lag, yeah. And the second time you got in the car, who got in first? I believe I would have to check the video, but it felt instantaneous. I believe he got in first, but it felt similar timing. It's your testimony that which side of the car did he get in the second time? I'd have to check. You don't remember? I just don't want to get it wrong. It's your testimony that Mr. Majors got in the car and went into the back row, right? Yes. And you got in and went where? To the seat which I had always been sat in, so the one directly behind the driver. And from that seat, you testified that Mr. Majors pushed your left shoulder from the back row. Is that right? As he was moving from the back row to exit the vehicle. At any other point in the night, did Mr. Majors sit in the back row? No. All the testimony you gave previously about the altercation between you two, your testimony is that what happened when you were both in the bucket seats in the middle row, correct? Yes. The incident where I read the message and then he attacked me, that, make sure you insert that detail again. That was when we were sat next to each other in the middle row, yes. If we could please show Defense Exhibit 129, please. Mr. Jabbari, that's the inside of the car, correct? I believe so, yes. And there is no barrier between the driver and the second row of the seats in this car, is there? I'm unclear of what you mean by that. Sometimes cars have like a barrier between the driver and the second seat. There's no barrier in this one, right? There is not, no. If we could please see Defense Exhibit 133. And that is the view from inside the car, correct? Yes. And what would be the view that the people in the passenger seat in the second row would have of the driver and the passenger seat in the front row, correct? Depending on where you're sitting, correct. And that, looking at this photo, you were sitting behind the driver on the left. So that would be the left side of this photo, correct? Correct. And Mr. Majors would have been on the right side of this photo, correct? Yes. And if you could zoom in a little more. Mr. Jabbari, do you see the rear view mirror in this photograph? I do, yes. To the right of it is a camera in this car, is that right? Yes. And that camera is visible from the two bucket seats, correct? Correct. Defense Exhibit 134, this is a closer view of the front of the car, and the camera is showing, correct? Yes, I believe so. And it also shows some distance between the driver's seat and the passenger seat, correct? Correct. Now, if we could please go back to 128. It is your testimony that Mr. Majors was sitting in the center of the back row of this car the second time you got in, when you started asking him again about the text messages. Yes, I believe so, yes. So she doesn't know. Now she said center, then she said right, then she said center.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, how long do you estimate this conversation lasted? A couple of minutes, I think. Yeah, as I stated before, same answer. And then he shoved you and got out of the car, right? Yeah. And did you put your hands on Mr. Majors at all? I pulled at his shirt. At his shirt? Or his outfit? Well, what did you pull at? The top layer of his clothes. What was that? A coat or a jacket? I don't know the correct word. Now we don't know what a jacket is.
She doesn't know what a coat or a jacket is all of a sudden. I mean, it's the same in the UK as it is in the United States.
And do you know what Mr. Majors was wearing that night?
Interpreter.
Oh my god. A Jabbari interpreter.
Right.
Speaking jabroni up there on the stand.
Yeah. A jabroniist. We need somebody fluent in jabroni.
And do you know what Mr. Majors was wearing that night? Well, kind of, yeah. I wouldn't be able to draw a photo of it, but I could. It had buttons. It was a jacket of some sort. You lived with Mr. Majors, right? Yes. I mean, if you sleep in the closet, you should know all the clothes he owns. And you both left. And you've seen video of yourselves leaving your apartment that night, right? You know what's so funny? When that body cam footage, when they show the closet, the whole internet laughed because they recognize his style, his clothes in that closet. And she's just like, I don't know that those are his clothes. But the whole internet made a joke about his closet looking exactly like the clothes they would expect him to have.
Right. Because he dresses really eccentrically. So I'm just like, and the closet really wasn't full. So I'm saying that to say that you can kind of know what's in there. It wasn't packed like you would expect it to be.
Yeah, she definitely knows what his clothes are. She's just like, oh, I can't admit it. Can't admit it. And you both left, and you've seen video of yourselves leaving the apartment that night, right? Yes. And sitting here, do you remember what Mr. Majors was wearing? Yes. And it is a coat, correct? Yes. Or jacket, whatever word works for you. It's your testimony. Yeah, exactly. I would call it a jacket. What was he? I mean, as long as you decide what it is, girl, it's fine. What was you running? You're chasing? You're not running?
Right,
it's a jacket. It can be a jacket now, but it was a shirt 2 minutes ago. But I don't want to say it was a shirt because I know earlier I said I didn't recognize his shirt. So I don't want to talk about the shirt right now. So now I got to talk about it being a jacket after I just said it was a shirt. That's what's going on in her head. Yeah, exactly. I would call it a jacket. What was he wearing under the t-shirt? Like a long sleeve t-shirt. So you know it had sleeves, even though there's a coat. You know it had long sleeves, but then you don't remember the shirt.
Right.
Is that what he wore all night? I believe so, yeah. And what color was that? I believe it was a pale color. I think so. So I think you called out how this was like she didn't want to answer this part. I don't think it's just because she doesn't want to identify the buttons popping. I think it's also because she knows that she didn't lay the foundation for a scratched up face because
Mm-hmm.
she said she didn't recognize his shirt. She recognized
Right.
his face, but not his shirt. So it could just be someone else with the same side of his face with the scratch, but the shirt could make him someone else. So I think that's why she's being so shifty here. I believe it was a pale color. I think so. Like white or cream or something like that. And Miss Jabbari, when you grabbed Mr. Majors, where did you grab him? The kind of pockets of the, what's it called? The buttons of the jacket. And she can't lie because she knows these photographs exist.
Mm-hmm.
Can you please just show us how you grabbed him? Just like that. Let the record reflect the witness has grabbed her left lapel with her right hand. Record will still reflect. So yeah, she's using her right hand. You know, the one. I think it's a good place to stop. All right, so Mr. Barra, you're still under oath and don't discuss your testimony with anyone. So
And this
there's
is
that.
day 2, right? So this is
This is her second day on the stand.
Wednesday, right? So then
Yep.
Thursday is Jimmy.
Yep.
I'm
So
curious to see that one because I want to see all the parts that she ran off and screamed and was crying in the back.
I'm gonna want to do some dinner because I haven't eaten. So I'm gonna want to do that. We can do some comments, but if you're free and want to come back, we can jump in and do that tonight. As like, I keep looking at my computer. I never changed my time zone, so it says 8:34, but it's 7:34 for me. So maybe I don't know. It'll probably take me like an hour and a half. So me and my brother are gonna go find some place in Texas to grab quick
Oh,
food.
you're in
And
Texas. Oh.
yeah, neither of us have like really been feeling great. Like we got some bug. I'm like day cooled up right now, so I sound fine. But I slept all day. I was not doing well earlier.
But I'm really losing.
Emergency. I took an emergency pack, and I do feel better. So maybe they really do work.
No, they do
Uh,
work, especially if you catch it as the symptoms are
yeah,
starting.
because he got sick first. So I'm like, all right, because we're all doing this tournament setup, and like everyone's like going through the motion. Like the
Mm-hmm.
staff, they're like, "Can you guys pick up Clorox wipes? Can you guys?" They're like,
Like we
so.
all have cooties just going around. So
Yeah,
you
and
see how
nothing you can
quick
do at that
white.
point.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we have some comments. So Chill's gonna clip that one part, I think, about the I'm not running, I'm chasing. I'm not chasing, I'm just
I'm
following.
following him, and
She
then
just
you
wanted
see
to take a
her.
walk on the beach with her bottle of wine, like Sag Harbor. She just wanted a calm walk on the sidewalk.
Right.
Uh, the purpose of Jonathan Majors putting her in the vehicle so the driver could take her away,
Mm-hmm.
like, yep, get gone. So that way she's not stuck on the street strayed by herself because she mentions it two different parts in her testimony. You know, being scared as a woman because of men being around. She does it with the police, and then she does it knowing she needs to go home after the club
Because
because
she
it's
drank
late.
a
It's
lot.
that time of night, and she drank too much, and she would never put herself in that
Mm-hmm.
position as a woman. The purpose of Jonathan Majors putting her in the car, the driver can take her ass home.
Right.
I've never seen that there. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the third car incident is just like when she's finally getting her bag. Is that the point in time where she throws something on the street? I think Jimmy was there. That was Jimmy's day. We're gonna get to that.
Yeah,
But
because I don't. Yeah, I'm
she
thinking.
throws something. It's like in the video. She throws something and she will not say what it is.
Okay.
So there's that. She chased him 3+ blocks in heels with leather pants, heels and leather pants,
Other
after a
pants.
heavy meal and chugging a margarita. How did she not puke after that?
She's got a high. She. What do they call it? She can
Oh
hold her liquor.
yeah, he did take a picture with at this
Mm-hmm.
point in time.
Mm-hmm.
I wish the driver had said he was trying to get away, not trying to get. Yeah, I think that was a language barrier.
Yeah, I think that
And
that's
and that's
in
another thing. If
place.
you see that on Twitter, push back against that because a lot of people don't understand that there was a translator and the language was different.
Do you
And
have
he
the
was saying
driver's
boy and girl.
license?
No. And I'm not actually sure.
I mean, you don't really
She
need them, but I just was curious.
Casey, I think Casey might have also been there for that Monday. So it's possible if we go through her because it's gonna be it took forever for me to find out who Casey was and get in contact with her and send the right format to make this request. She wasn't there for all of the days, but I think she might have been there on Monday. So if we wanted to order those, at least it would be
Mhm.
through her.
Yeah, that
So we
was
don't
a
need to go
different girl.
through. It would be an email, and it would be the. Oh, you think Monday was a different person when the
No,
driver
I'm
was?
saying they did switch up a couple of times. I
I
just knew it was a different girl. I didn't know who was who though.
I think she might have still been there Monday, so it would be what's the page total for that day, and it would be Max, Chloe, the driver. Was there anyone
Hmm.
else that day? Did an officer come back at Lucero? Was that Lucero on Monday?
All the officers they didn't have more than one day. They didn't keep any of them up there longer than an hour.
Or is that the day the DV expert started testifying?
Lucero
Maybe did the DV expert come on after the driver?
Let me double check.
No, because the prosecution rested their case after the DV expert.
They did, because then the defense came. Remember, by the time they started with her, we only had like 15 minutes left of the day. We adjourned, and because they asked Seth how much longer, and he was like, only about 10 more minutes. And instead of the judge letting him have the 10 minutes, he was like, we'll just adjourn till tomorrow. Then we got there the next day, and he was like, no further questions.
Them short ass court days, this guy.
Yeah, it's craziness. I'm telling you, nobody works more than 4 hours a day because they never started at 10 o'clock.
That's very New York.
Started an hour late. Then we went to lunch at 12:30. Didn't come back till 12:30. No, it had to be about 1 o'clock. Didn't come back till 2:15 every day, and then they were out of there by 4:30.
Yeah, I'm agreeing. The whole chat is the same sentiment. None of her lies make sense. This is just crazy. Her story never makes sense. She's making it up as she goes along. Why is it kind of all the time? I'm flabbergasted. Me too.
Flabbergasted.
They weren't sitting in the same row of seats. So this the second part of the car, he goes straight to the back of the seats.
Mm-hmm.
She sits in the second row. And that, to me, kind of seems he wants to go home, but I'm keeping my distance from you. I don't want to be close to you.
And she kept, and then that's when he just...
Because there's no other way. There's no other way that he would have had to push her to get out of the car if she wasn't turned between those captain seats to try to get back at him. Mm-hmm. So maybe it's true that he did have to push her to get out of the way, but what would that mean? Where would she had to have been positioned? What would she had to have been doing? And she's saying it herself. Mm-hmm. She's saying, I was grabbing at him because I am pulling him because he's trying to leave.
Right.
Like, she's making that justification, but it's an admission that she wasn't just sitting in that captain seat.
And you don't get the right to stop somebody from leaving. You don't have a right to do that.
No, but she thinks she does, and so do all these other, female-friendly, believe all women types.
Because we've been programmed in general. Even as kids, you tell boys don't ever hit girls, even if they hit you first.
So you can get away with it and you will not face consequences.
It's just gotten worse and worse with the Me Too movement, but we've been programmed to think that we can just be handsy with guys and expect them to just allow it, and we move on with our lives. And then when you get cold cocked upside the head, now, I don't know why you did that. Like, what?
I was going to say, so I'm going to jump back to Roberts, but this one I just saw. I really wish that ABC News would show these transcripts while interviewing JM. You never know if there's ever some type of documentary that comes out that does something like this. That's really where you'd see this stuff start to pop in. The news will sometimes overlay, they'll pull up the one pull code or whatever, but something longer format is really when they would start working in the facts. I think what they did with that interview, even though they put the pictures there to create a visual, they did put some of the evidence there. I mean, it was to tell the story. It was to tell his story of what happened that night. But with the transcripts, it would put Jabbari's name in it. It would make it much more pertinently about her. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that this was the direction they wanted the interview to go in. So, not saying that they couldn't come up and do some other... He barely mentioned her. I mean, he was like, Grace, I loved her. That was the most
But did you know? Okay. Now, I'm no body language expert. But did you notice how
he was like, I love her?
Jaw. No, he clenched his jaw and he bit his lip when he said it. He was like, I loved it.
He knew. He was like,
I was like, did you love her, Jay?
Or he's biting his lip. He's biting his lip. He's biting his lip in retrospect for being an idiot about it.
He was like, I loved Grace. Just like that.
I'm gonna have to go back and look. To me, I took it more of I can't believe I did. I can't believe I did. You know what I mean? I took that as a
he was
what was I thinking? Damn.
I actually loved this dude.
Because this is why. This is what Fatal Attraction looks like.
He's like, I got caught slipping.
And so Tracker says levitating like Dua Lipa, and that's what I mean. Her description initially of the chair, she has to clarify it when the pictures are brought out, but it makes no sense. He's between the middle seat. It just makes no sense. He said my closet remark was funny. Hey, it's the both of us. We got both here. And then, what was all that jazz going on with Dr. Hines wanting a chance?
I have no idea.
What?
No, oh, you missed it. We were all joking. We were talking about colorism and in the black community and da 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 da. And so I was saying how I have an preference for really dark black men. And he was like, so that means I had a chance.
Oh, I was like, because he's kind of dark, in my opinion, but I'm really white, so like
Well,
if
I
we're just
mean,
speaking
in the black,
relatively.
right, in the black community, he's significantly. I mean, he's not the darkest, but he's
Yeah.
dark. Yeah.
Okay, now I get. Yeah, I was in and out that day, so I didn't catch everything that was going on.
I think you came when it ended. I think you said it was like ended 15 seconds ago or something.
Oh, that was when I was
That
here
was
and I was
that
about to
night.
join.
Yeah.
That was when I was going to join live, but I was tuning in almost most of my drive. There was a camera, but there was no video obtained.
No,
But
there was actually an affidavit that was read. No witnesses showed up, but somebody from the car company submitted an affidavit saying that the camera was not recording, nothing was ever altered.
Yeah, and we don't know if that's actually true. It's plausible
Yeah.
that it wasn't because, people don't maintain all the hardware all the time, but then it's also like maybe they just don't want to come out and say, "Hey, we're going to put you on blast. Don't use
And
our
they
company."
don't have to give it up. They don't have to. So.
And then Dariana says the fact that she's all over the place would make me doubt her immediately. The driver said the camera was not working. Yeah, so we don't really know.
Or he just didn't turn it on.
And Chill, we're getting soundtracks for the clips that Chill's gonna clip for every breath you take. It astounds me how the jury got to the decision. And then hung jury, they split the baby. Grace Jabbari chasing Jonathan Majors was like a scene out of My Best Friend's Wedding. And it seems more like Get Out and the girlfriend following him with a shotgun. Can you imagine? I mean, other situations this could have involved a gun and it would have been a very different case with a very different outcome. So that is the end of her second day on the stand. We are still on cross-examination. Danny, if you're available later, and I can coordinate with you on the exact time I get back, if you want to jump into the day that Jimmy was there and you were not, that'd be a really fun read to start doing. I would like to wait for you whenever you're available to start doing that. So if you're available and want to jump in.
I don't want you rushing through dinner either, because I mean.
Well, I'll touch base with you, and then if you're there, you'll have the link. We can do something. So guys, look for our live tonight. I'll try to put it up at least 15 minutes before we actually start. That way you guys aren't having to fast forward through it. Because I think that'll be really fun just to see you finally seeing and feeling like you're getting to live the day through the day that you weren't there.
I totally missed that day.
Yeah, and I haven't read that day at all, so it's going to be a blind read for me, besides what I know, obviously, is background information. So you guys stay tuned for that. And then Danny, I'm confused. Is it Danny Does This and That is your YouTube name, right? So make sure you're following Danny as well. She's also syndicating. When we use StreamYard, we can syndicate, so every person that joins can also be streaming it on their own stream. So if you guys want to shout her out, obviously go subscribe, but go and like the video where she's sharing the stream to her own channel. Give her that engagement too. And then your Instagram is just Danny Does Law, right?
Danny Does Law.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, not your Instagram too, but your Twitter, everything else is Danny Does Law.
My Twitter is Danny.
Yeah, sorry. That's what I meant. But yeah, so keep up with that. And guys, remember, if you see these people on Twitter talking about, I've only come across one person claiming they read the transcripts, and I don't think they read the transcripts based on other things that they're saying. But if you hear someone say, Grace Jabbari said X, Y, Z, you got to push back. We've all got to push back and push back on the credibility, because if anyone actually has read these transcripts and can't see that there's a credibility issue, I have questions. But yeah. So thank you guys for all tuning in. You guys are always great pointing things out in the chat. Thanks, Jenny, for joining, and I will message you and figure out a time. We'll get back on here.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. All right. Bye.